Vince's family that he lost his mother, and give everybody grace. And thank you again for this holiday that we have, that you were born, that you could die on the cross for us to get rid of our sins. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Alderman. Would you please stand and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance led by Alderman Dupree?
And salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, sir. I forgot while ago to push my button so everybody could hear it. So if y'all would please be kind enough, Alderman Bostic and Mr. Campbell reminded me. Thank you, gentlemen. Roll call, please, Miss Julie.
Alderman Klein.
Here.
Alderman Bledsoe.
Here.
Alderman Guys.
Here.
Alderman Bostic.
Here.
Alderman Johnson.
Here.
Alderman Dupree.
Here.
Alderman Young.
Here.
All right, we have a quorum. Number one on your agenda is the vote on the municipal docket. Do we have a motion?
Mayor,
Alderman Geis.
make a motion to approve the municipal docket.
We have a motion by Alderman Geis. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Alderman Dupree. Do we have any discussion? Roll call, please.
Alderman Klein.
Aye.
Alderman Bledsoe.
Aye.
Alderman Guys.
Aye.
Alderman Bostic.
Aye.
Alderman Johnson.
Aye.
Alderman Dupree.
Aye.
Alderman Young.
Aye.
Motion carries 7 in favor, none opposed. Number two is the consent agenda. Do we have a motion?
Mayor,
Alderman Bostic.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the consent agenda, but I'd like to also add to that under new business, A, B, and C. If everybody's okay with that.
Move those to A, B, and C over to new business?
Move the new business, A, B, and C, to the consent agenda.
Could you do A and C? A couple of people have asked me about that $88,000.
That would be fine, Mayor.
All right, sir. So if I understand your motion is to approve the consent agenda with the addition of A and C under new business?
That is correct.
Thank you, sir. Do we have a second? Second by Alderman Bledsoe. Is there any discussion? Roll call, please.
Alderman Young.
Aye.
Alderman Dupree.
Aye.
Alderman Johnson.
Aye.
Alderman Bostic.
Aye.
Alderman Guys.
Aye.
Alderman Bledsoe.
Aye.
Alderman Klein.
Aye. Motion carries 7 in favor, none opposed. All right, moving on down. Well, we have some new hires. Would our new hires, any of them present?
Mayor.
Alderman Bledsoe.
My new planning commissioner, Mr. Ware's back there. He's here tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Ware. Why don't you stand up so everybody can see you? Appreciate you accepting the position that pays absolutely nothing. Thank you, sir. We're honored to have you, and thank you for your service, sir. All right, number three is the claims docket. We have a motion.
Mayor,
Alderman Geis.
make a motion to approve the claims docket. General Fund, $352,123.50. The Library Fund, $12,003.49. The Economic Development Fund, $16,156.74. The Utility Fund, $76,469.47, for a total docket of $456,753.20.
We have a motion by Alderman Geis. Do we have a second? Second. Second by Alderman Klein. Is there any discussion? Roll call, please.
Alderman Klein.
Aye.
Alderman Bledsoe.
Aye.
Alderman Guys.
Aye.
Alderman Bostic.
Aye.
Alderman Johnson.
Aye.
Alderman Dupree.
Aye.
Alderman Young.
Aye.
Motion carries 7 in favor, none opposed. All right, we have some special guests and presentations. I have a proclamation here. This Prematurity Awareness Month and Day. Whereas a healthy pregnancy and a baby are a blessing, mothers and babies in the United States are facing an urgent health crisis. And whereas the U.S. remains on the list as one of the dangerous developed nations for childbirth, 1 in 10 babies are born prematurely each year. It is the leading cause of death among newborns. And whereas preterm babies face lifelong birth defects and intellectual disabilities as a consequence of being born too soon, and whereas premature births affect 1 in 7 babies in Mississippi. Over 5,000 babies were born premature last year. And whereas on the March of Dimes 2021 report card, Mississippi received an F rating that has a 14.2% preterm birth rate. DeSoto County has a 12.7% preterm birth rate and received an F rating on the March of Dimes report card. And whereas organizations such as the Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated, Phi Beta Zeta Chapter South Haven, and the City of Horn Lake are working as part of the Healthy Moms, Strong Babies campaign to improve the health of moms and babies. And whereas November is Prematurity Awareness Month, and November the 17th is World Prematurity Awareness Day each year, I now proclaim November as Prematurity Awareness Month. In witness thereto, I have set my hand and caused the seal of Horn Lake to be affixed on this December the 6th, 2022. All right. I think we have a special, yes, our state representative, Hester McCray. Would you please honor us? Please come forward. Thank you for all you do, and thank you for being in the parade. It was. It was. For those who don't know, this is our state representative, Hester Jackson McCray. Thank you, ma'am.
As he said, I'm Representative Hester Jackson McCray, and I am also the president of the Favor Foundation. The reason why I am here today is because Favor Foundation has been in existence since 2010, but in 2020, I received my 501c3 and have been working with the community, Walls, Mississippi, helping with fire victims, funeral victims. I also contributed to the book fair for several schools in Horn Lake and in Walls. And for the last 2 years, I have been having a seniors holiday giveaway. And this will be the 3rd year. And I am here today to ask the alderman and the mayor, would you please do a charitable contribution to Favor Foundation so we can continue to give our seniors baskets so they can have a Merry Christmas. Because during the pandemic, a lot of people wasn't going and seeing them. And they appreciated us coming, delivering in the baskets. And I would like to keep this going.
Let me compliment you on that, for all that charitable work. Are you, I have to ask this legally, are you a nonprofit?
I'm a nonprofit.
Mr. Campbell, would, if the board so choose, could they legally donate that money to them?
Mr. Mayor, I assume this may come out of hotel motel tax, and if the board find that this organization is an attribute of the city, then certainly it could come out of that fund.
Thank you, sir. Does anyone have any questions for our state representative?
Mayor.
Alderman Johnson.
Thank you so much for the work that you do, Representative McCray. For the past couple years, I know that you've been doing this. How did you get the funds to be able to do this?
It was some contribution and my personal money.
Your personal money. I knew that a lot of it was done personally. Who do you serve when you give these baskets?
I do Southern Pines and the one behind the Good Samaritan.
Yes, ma'am.
And if I have some left over, I go to the village community up there on the Goodman Road,
Yes, ma'am.
give them some.
So it serves all of Horn Lake?
Yes, it-
Only Horn Lake?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Does anyone else have any questions or comments? Alderman Bostic.
This question is not for her, it's for Jim. In the past, have we made a contribution as a board to this foundation? This is the very first time. Okay.
And I am registered with the city of Horn Lake too, as well as with the state.
Do we have any more questions? Is there a motion?
Mayor,
Alderman Dupree.
I'd like to make the motion, we give the money to her foundation, paid by the hotel motel tax.
We have a motion by Alderman Dupree. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Alderman Bledsoe. Is there any discussion?
Mayor, how much,
Alderman Geis, is
how
that
much
you?
are we offering to donate?
I think, is it the
2,000.
2,000?
It's 2,000.
They're good on the second? Did that answer your questions? Okay. All right, we have a motion. We have a second. Is there any more discussion? Roll call, please.
Alderman Young.
Aye.
Alderman Dupree.
Aye.
Alderman Johnson.
Aye.
Alderman Bostic.
Aye.
Alderman Geis.
Aye.
Alderman Bledsoe.
Aye.
Alderman Klein.
Aye.
Motion carries 7 in favor, none opposed. Thank you so much for the good work you do.
Thank you so much.
Not just in charity, but in representing the city of Horn Lake down in Jackson, Mississippi.
Yes. And I'm asking all the aldermen if you would like to participate in the giveaway when I give out the basket, you're welcome to help.
Thank you very much.
Mayor, can
Alderman
I ask
Johnson.
a question?
Yes, ma'am.
When and where?
I will be giving out baskets on the 22nd, December 22nd.
Okay, and you.
And we'll
you're
start
just-
at Southern Pines.
Okay. What time?
About 10:30, 11 o'clock.
Okay, can you let us know definitely so
will.
we can, okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, ma'am. All right, letter C is the Horn Lake Touchdown Club. Ms. Jeanette? Good evening, Ms. Jeanette. Hey, Ms. Talia.
We're no strangers here,
No.
and we certainly appreciate the opportunity to stand before you this evening again. With basically the same request that we've had in the past, is to ask for support, to continue to support the Horn Lake Touchdown Club. And the reason being is that we are responsible for several different projects there. Obviously, we talked about the nutrition before, where we feed players all of the away games. And some of those games sometimes consist of two feeding if they're going a far distance. One of the biggest things that we also fund is the huddle. And what the huddle is film. And that film actually is available so that our athletes can get recruited to the next level. We have been amazingly successful with that particular project. I'm gonna let Talia talk a little bit about that because she's done more research and have some significant figures as a result of the huddle and how our young student athletes have been able to go on to play at the next level.
Yeah, can I pass these out to you?
Certainly. Yes, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
While she's passing those out, one of the other things that we do is that we also fund our annual banquet, where we actually meet in the First Baptist Church, and all of the student athletes are there, and they're presented awards for their contribution to the team for that particular year. And we want, in fact, inside of that packet, there's an invitation. We will have that banquet on this Thursday at 6 o'clock, and if any of you are available, we would love to have you as our guest.
Thank you.
So So, like Ms. Jeanette spoke is, the huddle is the main thing, and it's one of our, biggest expenses. And we listed a couple on the letter, other things that we do as well. And we know, prices are going up and things of that nature. But really, I know, like Ms. Jeanette said, our goal is to feed the boys and get them scholarships, but what we're trying to do is create something that will last long beyond us, that we can keep sending these boys off to college, and things like that. So if you flip on the other side of the paper, we list some of it ain't all the boys, but, some of the most recent ones that have went to college because of the film, and the huddle that we're able to provide to them. So, of course, everybody knows N'Kobe Dean. We got Darius Harris. He currently plays for the Kansas City Chiefs as well. Peyton Logan, he currently plays in the CFL, Canadian Football League. And we have tons of other boys that's currently on rosters at LSU, Kentucky, Ole Miss, Mississippi State, and all of them came through our program. So, we've been able to provide probably over $2 million, help them get $2 million in scholarships, just by providing that opportunity for them to get the film out to those scouts. Of course, that's just giving our boys a leg up, so we can compete with other schools and things of that nature is already a challenge. They just implemented what we call it, the transfer portal. So anything that we can continue to do to help our boys is significant. So hopefully, we can continue to get y'all support and we can continue to provide that for our boys.
In fact, one of the years that we received so much scholarship was the year that our boys graduated, the same year we became state champions. That particular year, DeSoto County led the state in scholarship, and it was because of the athletes at Horn Lake.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if you guys knew that.
No, I did not. No, ma'am.
Yeah, and so, hopefully, like I said, we could continue to get y'all support, and, we can send these boys off to school. They can come back and give to the community and give back to us and, come back and live, and they'll be productive citizens because they've been well-educated, and, we can just have great students coming out of Horn Lake High School. Not just athletes, but great people and academics as well.
And I know the cost of college, and I know probably some of these fellows wouldn't have got to go unless for these scholarships. So I commend y'all for working so hard to bring them to the attention. As you know, the board is, after the first year, going to study about the Economic Development Fund. And if they do vote to support you tonight, if they feel like they need to go ahead and make that decision now, please bear in mind that next year it might be different. It just might be different.
Okay.
Yes.
But does anybody on the board have any questions? Alderman Klein.
Yes, ma'am. Thank y'all for all your hard work. One thing I don't see in here, what kind of fundraisers are y'all doing to raise money?
Well, we sell like the banners on the field. We sell the ads in the book that was included in that packet there. We do have to run concessions at the school. So we run volleyball and basketball concessions.
Oh, you do have the volleyball and basketball?
Yeah, I just ran from there tonight, so. So, yeah, we have to stock that as well and, sell.
And another
as well.
big part of our fundraising is just door-to-door knocking on doors, asking people.
Yeah.
And that has been successful because, we have a lot of alumni that own businesses here in Horn Lake and in DeSoto County and don't mind giving back if it's for something worthwhile. So Talia and I have really beat the pavement the last few years in doing that and have been able to attract some significant donors and some people just individually that, see the need to want to help and do something.
Yeah, and we do the hydration drive every year with Kind Nutrition. So she's an alumni of Horn Lake as well, so just people donate water and Powerade and stuff.
I know I was a Booster Club president in 1997, 98, 99, and 2000.
I remember.
So, and we really earned a lot of money handling the basketball concession, especially when they had tournaments. Are they still doing a tournament at the beginning of the season?
Well, it sort of rotates, so it ain't at Horn Lake every year, so it just depends on who they decide gets it.
I think it was the Flynn tournament is what we had every year.
Yeah, they haven't did that in a while.
Yeah, and we used to earn as much in that tournament as we did basketball concession for the whole season. So, I mean,
Yeah,
that was
it will help.
We hadn't had
Yeah.
opportunity to host that.
awesome.
Yeah.
Anyone else have any? Alderman Johnson.
Thank you, ladies, for the job that you do with our young men. It's so well worthwhile, and I know you guys probably spend more money out of your pocket in doing things too, because that's usually how it is when you sponsor things and when you're, you know, getting things together for others. So I applaud you with that. If you were to be able to get the funds approved tonight, when would you all need the funds?
We actually started budgeting in March.
In March, okay.
And that's because one of the largest expenses is the huddle. And we normally have to pay that huddle in April, May. And so we like to know if that's going to happen so that we'll know what we need to do.
Yes, ma'am.
Because like you said, yeah, we do a lot of personal stuff and you know, of course, and as other people that are personal friends or companies that may not even be in the county, maybe be in Memphis because of the relationship that we may have. We go to them for support. We try to make it happen. And that's what we want, to continue to work with the board here in the city to make sure if the funds are available to us, then we can make sure that we can get them. And we're very grateful. I can't tell you how much more we've been able to do as a result of getting these funds, because when we first started this, the ninth grade and junior varsity, we could not supply nutrition for them. And so as of the last few years, we've been able to take on the ninth grade, the junior varsity, as well as the varsity team to make sure that they all get what they need on game day.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else? Alderman Bostic.
Yeah, we have a committee set up for our hotel motel funds, and you're on the committee.
That's right.
Can you explain what procedure or where we stand on that we're going to be implementing starting in January?
Well, that's what I'm going to submit before the board next meeting. So we haven't finalized everything, but basically what we're looking at is accountability, that we know where you spent those funds and you show proof that that's where the money is gone and you'll be filling out an application, you know, each year to receive this. The bottom line is if we want to, if we give you the money, then somebody else comes in and asks for something, and then we'd feel obligated that we'd have to pay them too, to support them. So we're kind of looking at matching, you know, if we do give you something, so dollar for dollar up to 5,000, you know, and then, and that's pretty much as far as we've gone to that and accountability. And then we're also looking at, this is coming out of the economics funds. We're thinking, and if that went away, then we'd both be in trouble. So we're looking at limiting stuff that's coming out of the economics fund and truly that fund go towards the parks and things of that nature for the city, you know. So, but we do know that there's a great need in helping our schools, and there's 8 or 9 schools that we have in our area that have students living in our area, I should say. And so we want to make sure it's equal, that when they come, that we have money that we can give them too.
Right.
So that's going to limit probably the amount that we can give out, you know, to each school.
And we don't have a problem with being transparent with what we do with the funds. In fact, we are, you know, responsible to the county. Every month, we have to provide a report to the school to say, you know, what's coming in and what's going out. So there's no problem with us being able to share that same information with the board and the city.
Thank you, ma'am. Alderman Bledsoe.
The only thing I have, I was a Books Club president for 10 years because nobody wanted it. It's one of those jobs that you get, nobody pays you for. The main thing is like when you go door to door, keep a record of what you get, because one of these days it might, if you get 5,000, then we'll match you with 5,000, then there's your $10,000. So that's what we're considering, because we're having people that's not in the city come knocking on the door too. So we're trying to take care of everybody that's in the Horn Lake area. And, our lawyer keep us straight. So, thank y'all.
Anyone else?
Mayor.
Alderman Geis.
I got a question. Is this budgeted already? Did we budget this in this last budget?
Already budgeted.
Okay, so this isn't for next year, it's on this budget that we already approved. Thank you.
Anyone else? Alderman Bledsoe.
And the form that we're gonna probably give out when we get everybody approved is, you have to be in by May the 1st with what you want or what you're wishing for. And, that's the main thing, get it in by May, that way we can put it in the budget or whatever we gotta do. Gives us plenty of time to work on it, cause we're for y'all, we're not against you.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
We know that.
We know. Well, we wanted to come back and, like I said, be a little bit more transparent. That's why we wanted to give the numbers and the figures. That's not exactly everything that we do, but at least, y'all could have something in front of you to sort of gauge.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Anybody else have any questions or comments?
Might want to tap some of those NFL players for contributions.
We waiting,
We definitely
And
gonna do
Darius
that.
Harris, he does, he has in the past 2 years came back and,
Awesome.
donated to us as well. That's the thing, we want to continue to build those relationships where, when they, we know they got things they got to take care of. And when they get set, they can come back and give, not only to us, but to other foundations in our community.
Well, I imagine it'll be hard to say no to you two ladies when you come beating door to door. I'm going to tell you that.
Yeah.
Now, this is a little unusual situation because I know the committee has been working hard on trying to come up with some guidelines for this. But I also know that this is not y'all's first time to ask. And y'all have been using the money, it appears, very, very wisely by all these scholarships. Some of these kids wouldn't have been able to go to college without that. And it's kind of a balancing act right now. I know the board wants to get a policy set, but I know at the same time, y'all have always relied on the city to help y'all. So, anybody on the board have any comments, questions? All right. Does anybody have a motion for the funds?
Mayor,
Alderman,
Young.
oh, I thought that was an angel calling. It's not. Far from it. It's Alderman Young.
your number's not been pulled yet, Mayor. I would like to go ahead and just make the motion that said, go ahead and give them the $10,000 with the understanding that they're going to have to provide a detailed accounting of where the $10,000 is going between now and then, between now and the submission of their application for the next funds.
That's not a problem at all.
We have a motion by Alderman Young. You want that in case they request next year. You don't want that information this year.
Yeah, right. I would like that information included in their application for next year's funds.
All right, sir. We have a motion by Alderman Young. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Alderman Klein. Is there any discussion? Roll call, please.
Alderman Klein.
Aye.
Alderman Bledsoe.
Aye.
Alderman Geis.
Aye.
Alderman Bostick.
Aye.
Alderman Johnson. Alderman Dupree.
Aye.
Alderman Young.
Aye.
Motion carries 7 in favor, none opposed. Thank y'all for the tremendous work that y'all do, and I wish you and your family Merry Christmas.
Thank you so much.
Thank y'all.
Thank you for this information about all these scholarships. My son-in-law and grandson coach at a school over in Arkansas, so I'm going to steal your idea about the huddle, if you don't mind. Thank you.
You can get your head coach to donate too, because our field's named after him over at Latimer Lakes.
Thank y'all so much.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Chad, number 5, planning, case number 2107 RZ. Thank you. This is a public hearing, which I now declare open.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, Alderman. Yes, Chad Barr, Planning Director, to present on this particular case. This case was taken up by the city's Planning Commission back on November the 28th, and they did recommend approval of it with 2 conditions by a 6-0 margin. Hopefully you've had a chance to kind of peruse through some of the material on the case beforehand, but I will go through a few key points on the case. Before I get to the picture there, the aerial map, there's a slide before that. It talks about the purpose of PUDs. A PUD is a planned unit development. Just think of it, probably a good way to think of it as a custom build type of zoning district, where we have just our regular stock type zoning, whether it be C3, C4, R10, R8, but a PUD is a custom build type of zone. And what we'll see here in the upcoming slides is that effort by the applicant, which the applicant's development team is in the audience tonight, if they have comments or questions later on. Okay, so here on this particular slide, you can see the subject properties. There's 2 of them in the center, bounded by the blue line. And then there's zoning in the different directions. To the north of the subject property is AR, which is the agricultural residential zoning, which is used with larger lots and single-family development for homes. To the east of the subject property is C4 zoning, and there's a religious institution established there. Across the road, across Goodman Road to the south, is a PUD, more PUD type zoning, but use primarily single-family residences there. And then to the west of the subject property is more C4, which is that planned commercial district, and there's a indoor recreational use on that particular parcel. So moving on to the next slide, just to kind of frame the application, if you will, the size of the development is 7.89 acres. There's a requirement in the zoning ordinance that to be considered for a PUD zoning, that it has to be at least 5 acres, so it does meet that threshold. This is also part of the Spacebox West subdivision final plat that was approved by the city back in September. That plat consists of 2 lots. There's a lot named lot number 1, consisting of 6.79 acres, and another lot called 1A, consisting of 1.11 acres. The current zoning, as stated in the lead slide, is C4. There is no 100-year floodplain contained on the subject property, so that's a positive thing. There's 1 existing fire hydrant located upon the east property of the 2 along its southern side, which would be on the north side of Goodman Road West. Moving on to the next slide, for Lot 1, what's proposed by the applicant is 3 different land uses. A, self-storage in a climate-controlled building. B, recreational vehicle, RV, boat and vehicle storage inside and outside, and then drive-up self-storage units. And then for the smaller lot of the 2, lot 1A, there's the 8 different land uses. I won't list them all, but there's 8 there. But keep in mind, with the existing C4 zoning, there's 54 land uses in the current zoning scheme that are permitted by right within the city. In C3, there's 60 units. Within C4, there's 54. But in this particular case, they're proposing a much more limited scope of permitted land uses on Lot 1A. So they just have 8 different land uses listed there. Electrical service is Entergy. Gas service is Atmos. Going on to the next slide, public water and sanitary sewer both would be supplied by the city of Horn Lake. Elementary school in question would be within the Shadow Oaks Elementary School area, and the high school would be the Horn Lake High School area. Moving on to the next slide, you can see a kind of a project PUD layout. You can see the two lots highlighted in the kind of the bold purple font where it identifies them as Lot 1 and Lot 1A. You can see what they're wanting to do there with the large building. And then they're also proposing to add a fire hydrant along the northwest corner. There's some gray hatching on the slide that goes along the north edge and the west edge. It's 100 feet of width, and it consists of a power line easement. And there are existing power lines that go through that easement area.
So nothing could be built on that?
That's correct. What they're proposing is basically they would just be parking in that easement area, but no actual structures are proposed within that 100 feet area. So moving on, I'm just going to hit a few key points, kind of particular to the case and PUD type zoning. There is a prohibition with PUD type zoning if three different types of land uses are proposed, if it be for public land uses or estate residential, which that's a specific density through the city's comprehensive plan, or low density residential. Obviously, that's not what's proposed here with any of those three categories, so it makes it allowable to do what they're proposing to do, which basically is on Lot 1 is a light industrial type use, and then various commercial uses for Lot 1A. So moving on, the PUDs get analyzed through the comprehensive plan, so I've tried to break that down into 4 categories. Adjacent land uses, which I've already spoken about, transportation, infrastructure, public utility facilities, and then the comprehensive plan specifics itself. The next slide, I won't reiterate what I've already started with under that one slide as far as existing zoning and adjacent land uses. As far as the transportation infrastructure, Goodman Road there is paved. Consists of 105 feet of road right-of-way width. And the entrance point would be off of Goodman Road. And Goodman Road has 2 lanes westbound, 2 lanes eastbound, and then a center turn lane. The applicant developer states they will request with the Mississippi Department of Transportation, MDOT, the median on said road be modified to allow vehicles to have the option to turn east onto Goodman Road, thus exiting the site.
Excuse me, what was that last thing again? They're going to request it, or they have received permission?
Oh, no, what I'm just saying is that the applicant and the developer, they plan, I don't know if they've already made application with MDOT already, but to modify, which if approved by MDOT would give the ability of traffic exiting the site, the ability to turn east onto.
In other words, remove some of those medians.
Yes, yes, so that remains to be seen if, what MDOT would respond there.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Uh-huh. So I mentioned earlier some of the public utility facility providers. I'm going to go on to the comprehensive plan, some things that are specific there to kind of keep in mind. There's a land use goal number 2 from the comprehensive plan, which talks about to oblige the orderly and sustainable development patterns within the community. And it seems as a proposed limited use PUD that's proposed that could help meet or obtain that specific goal. On the next slide, under objective 15, which is from page 12 from the comprehensive plan, it talks about transitional buffers should be present to protect residential areas from more intense land uses. So we see the residential land uses to the north of the subject properties, and we're seeing that the actual power line easement in this case is helpful to fulfill that buffering objective. Because the zoning ordinance, just right out of the zoning ordinance itself, would only require, I think it's a 35 feet buffer between the AR zoning to the north and the existing C4 zoning. So as 100-foot, that would actually be almost 3 times the width of the normal buffering requirement along that north side. A sidewalk is proposed on the south side of the development by the developer. They do plan to be connected to the full system of urban services, as I mentioned earlier. And I talked about the fire hydrant, so that gets us to the last slide. I do want to make one addition. Per Article 5, Item O, O is in October, I guess. Number 10, lowercase h, a PUD, if approved, is valid for a period of 2 years from its date of approval. There is another sentence in that particular part of the zoning ordinance that does say if there's an approved master development plan, that if that expires, then the city could revert the zoning back. If it's approved to PUD, it could revert it back to C4 zoning. So there is some wording on the time of validity of a PUD per the
You're
zoning.
saying in 2 years?
That's correct, sir.
Have not done or started what they informed the board, then it would revert back?
Yes, it has that potential. It doesn't really categorize. I know in other places that I've worked, other states, some of the wording you'd see sometimes on a particular type of zoning, if it got approved, whether it was PUD or not, would be wording like if substantial construction had taken place, which that was great fodder for lawyers or whatever. So it went to the courts or whatever, and the courts determined in this one state that that was basically if the foundation permits had been applied for, pulled, paid for, and substantial foundation work had been completed. That was seen as substantial, and therefore the zoning would vest, basically. So what we're really talking about here with this period of validity, at least in my opinion, is vesting of development rights. So I don't know if legal counsel has anything in the state of Mississippi that clarifies that on a case basis or a statutory basis. But we just have 2 years in our zoning ordinance on a newly approved PUD, if approved. So in the end, as I'd stated earlier, the Planning Commission recommended approval of the request, and they did attach 2 conditions. So they onto the recommendation. A, the applicant / developer / owner shall properly create and record the covenants and restrictions to govern the development in perpetuity. And then B, applicant, developer, owner shall clarify which level of signage shall be allowed within the PUD. Right now, obviously, it's got C4 zoning, so we would apply, if someone wanted to develop the property, we would apply the C4 wording out of the zoning ordinance from the sign section, which is Article 6. But in this case, they didn't really specify, so it would be nice if they would specify tonight what level of signage they would like to apply as far as the custom portion of the PUD. Because what the problem would be is if the PUD is approved and they don't specify that, then as staff, we have a hard time administrating what type of zoning to apply. Do we apply C4 because that's what it used to be, or C3 or M1 or whatever? So if they could clarify that, that would be great. And those are the 2 conditions that the Planning Commission had attached to their recommendation for approval. That conclude the presentation unless you have any questions.
Thank you, sir. Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Barr? Alderman Klein.
Mr. Barr, this is 2 lots. One of them, right now, as it stands with the PUD, they're gonna do the storage. And which lot is that, lot 1 or lot 2?
At least the ones they have labeled where they want to do the indoor and outdoor storage would be on the larger lot, which would be lot 1.
Okay.
And then where they're reserving those 8 land uses for different, like, commercial land uses. It looks to me like that's like an excerpt taken right from the C4 zoning, would be for that smaller lot called Lot 1A, down in the southwest corner of the PUD, proposed PUD area.
That brings to a question, because, we had conversation on something like this over off of Nail, and this is being next door to a lot of children with the skating ring and with their after-day care and things of that nature. So be concerned that lot would be retail possibly, right? So that had the 8 items, if I'm not mistaken.
Here we go. Yeah, the 8 land uses proposed for Lot 1A would be retail sales, restaurant, which would either be sit-down or drive-through, professional offices, veterinarian clinic, no outside kennels, daycare, medical offices, financial institutions, and biomedical facilities.
All right, thank you, sir.
Does anyone else have any questions for Mr. Barr?
Mayor,
Alderman Guys?
did anybody from the public have any complaints on that project? Anybody from the neighborhood behind it?
As far as what's proposed, you mean? No, if I remember right, there was just limited public comment at the planning commission level.
Okay.
No really objections mentioned.
Okay, thank you.
This is a public hearing, so anyone in the audience, pardon, okay, let me just make this if I can, thank you. So anyone in the audience after the board and Mr. Barr discuss, and then the representatives, if you want to come forward at that time. Alderman Bledsoe, yes, sir.
Chad, do they have a buffer around this so you can't see it from Goodman Road or from the skate park or something?
It's a very good question. They do propose landscaping, and they also do, and maybe the applicant could add to it, they do plan on the entire perimeter of the whole acreage, putting in I think I don't know if it's going to be 6 foot, but a wrought iron fence around the entire perimeter. And then there is also an elevation differential between the back of the property and then the front part of the property along Goodman Road. So perhaps the applicant might be able to allude in a little more detail on that particular question.
Well, the main thing, I just kind of block it from Goodman Road because you go down there and you see old beat up boat or something.
Yeah, so they went through the plating process, and so this here is the actual rezoning question. So if this is approved, then they would still have to come back with a site plan design review, and that would go before the planning commission to review the city for the layout, landscaping, design of the building, that sort of thing.
So this is strictly a rezoning.
Yeah.
Anyone else have any questions for Mr. Barr? All right, sir, I'm assuming you represent the applicant?
Yes, sir. I'm Chance Walker, engineer representing Oak Developments for this project.
All right, so if you would give your address for the minutes, we sure would appreciate it, Mr. Chance.
8180 Airways Boulevard, South Haven, Mississippi.
All right, sir. Floor is yours, Mr. Walker.
Thank you. Good evening. So we think this location is a great area for this development. They build beautiful conditioned storage units. This particular one will be a conditioned storage unit with your typical drive-up units and outdoor RV and boat storage. Like Chad said, we are proposing a 6-foot ornamental iron fence around the perimeter of the development. The front side will be open. We have a detention pond designed up front just for the visuals, and then also the highlight of the site is the 100-foot easement that exceeds the required buffers around the project. We are proposing parking under the easement, and we're going through a TVA application for that process. As for Lot 1A, we did take C4 zoning and kind of compile it down into what we thought would be suitable for the area. And then Lot 1 would be the RV storage and conditioned storage area. Is there any questions?
I know this is just a rezoning here, but the picture I saw several months ago of the storage unit looked more like an office building than a storage unit.
Yes, sir. It's very, very nice the way they build it. A lot of glass. There's some renderings there on it.
The board would probably like to see. I know they say this is just the zoning and not the site plan, but that is what he plans to build here?
Yes, sir.
All right, sir.
In this particular case, this will be a three-story conditioned storage unit or storage facility,
Three-story?
three-story. As for the signage and covenants, we have the covenants. The signage is just channel letters on the building and/or monument sign or pole sign on the in front of the facility. And then their logo is the Spacebox logo, kind of above the office area that wraps around the building, as you can see in the pictures there.
Is that in there too?
Yes, sir.
Excuse me. How far down?
The front page shows the general idea of a typical.
How it's gonna look?
Sir.
And this is, I know Mr. Chad mentioned about signage. Is this the typical signage?
Yes, sir. And for this one, it'll be the RV storage and boat. So it'll say RV and boat storage on it instead of just storage.
And getting back to what Alderman Bledsoe said, so boats that are parked will be behind this building anyway, is that right?
Yes, sir. So this is the site plan that we're going for. Everything behind the building is the storage for the boat and RV, and the building blocks all of that behind it.
Mr. Chad, did you want to ask Mr. Chance, excuse me, about the signage? Did you want to ask him anything about that?
I guess my only thought would be is if you have a particular like maximum area or height in mind. I mean, it's a custom thing. I mean, you could ask for different stuff than to just stock with what's in the C4, but.
But my question probably should be for the site plan, is what it should be for, shouldn't it?
It could be applied at that point. It could be deferred to a later date.
Excuse me.
We have the actual drawings of the signs. This one here appears to be 3 foot in height. That goes on the top of the building. RV and boat storage is what it will read on both sides of the building. And then in front of the building, it'll be a monument sign or a pole sign. Hasn't been decided yet.
I guess if I may add, I think the current structure within the zoning ordinance prefers like the monument over the pole sign. I mean, obviously, if you want to ask for a pole sign, then it would be up to the alderman to see if they would grant that or not. But the current structure is more pro-monument sign and less towards pole signs.
Thank you, sir. Does anyone on the board have any questions for Mr. Chance? Does anyone in the audience wish to come forward, either to say you're in favor of this or against it, or have any questions? Anyone else on the board have any questions? Or if not, this public hearing is now closed. We have a motion.
Mayor,
Alderman Geis.
I make a motion to approve case number 2107RZ, the request for rezoning C4 to PUD for 4500 Goodman Road West, address unofficial and unassigned, consisting of 7.89 acres plus or minus.
We have a motion by Alderman Geis. Who made the second? Alderman Klein made the second. Is there any more discussion?
Mayor,
Alderman Bostic.
there was a couple of conditions on that he had on there from the planning commissions. You want to add that to your motion?
Add the conditions as well.
Second still good?
Yes, sir.
All right, the motion by Alderman Geis to approve along with the conditions by the planning commission. Second by Alderman Klein. Is there any further discussion? Roll call, please. Ms. Julie?
Alderman Young.
Aye.
Alderman Dupree.
Aye.
Alderman Johnson.
Aye.
Alderman Bostic.
Aye.
Alderman Geis.
Aye.
Alderman Bledsoe.
Aye.
Alderman Klein.
Aye.
Motion carries 7 in favor, none opposed. Thank you, Mr. Chance. Y'all be careful going home, and a good Christmas to all of y'all. All right, under new business, Alderman Bostic was nice enough to let us take down there about the $88,000 thing connected with the tech side of government. I had some questions about that too, so did Alderman Dupree, and I asked, are you gonna talk, or is Mr. Daniel gonna talk?
I can begin talking right now.
All right, sir. It's yours, but before we go any further, Mr. Daniel tried explaining it to me all about the clouds and all this different thing, so that's why I requested someone else with more tech savvy than me trying to explain this to you. And I thank you for your patience, board. Mr. Robinson, please.
So are you saying you and I are on the same level, tech savvy?
That's you saying I'm on the same level with you? Is that what you're saying? Or?
Sorry, Mayor.
Okay.
Yes, I just wanted to share, Tyler Technologies is our software that pretty much runs everything, our financial software, and even, all the departments utilize that for accounts receivable, accounts payable, everything.
Is this Munis?
Yes, Munis is Tyler Technologies. And that is, you'll see in there that is a proposal for $88,000. I just wanted to let you know the past 3 years where we've stood with Tyler Technologies. This proposal is for them to host their service in their element, in the cloud. Right now, we host Munis on a server back down our hallway, which that server is probably over 10 years old, possibly, and having issues. Same thing that we've shared with you about the other servers that we have here. So there is an opportunity for us to get rid of that server and them host Munis at their location and out in the cloud. In 2020, we paid around a little over $57,000 for hosting Munis on site. 21, we paid them about little over $68,000, and that is again hosting here at our location. Last year we paid about $72,000 for hosting it right here. If we continue hosting it, we're going to have to buy a new server, because that server is, and Daniel can speak better to that, we're going to have to put out the money to buy a new server and still continue to pay. Right now, last year we paid $72,000, so we're looking at $88,000. That additional bump up is for them to be hosting all of our components. And in your board packet, you can kind of see the breakdown of all the different levels where the money breaks down. Those are the different areas that we pay for: business license, accounts receivable, permit and code enforcement, purchase orders, requisitions, capital assets, our financial management, which is our accounting process. So all of that is hosted by Tyler Technologies through Munis. So the $88,000 is for us to get rid of our server here and for them to host this. And from what I have understood over the years, it's and Daniel can speak to this, it's supposed to be a better support system because they don't have to call into our server and look at our server. But we've been having some issues with support over the past few weeks. Their support has been very poor in rectifying some issues that we're having. Again, you got to consider we're still hosting it, so they're kind of blind looking at this, trying to figure out what issues we're having on our server and trying to figure out the issues. I'm hoping that if they are hosting it, it'll be a little more flawless and seamless. But there is, because we have gone to trying to make sure we meet our insurance company's cybersecurity policies. That adds another thing. Daniel's trying to get a better understanding of if they are hosting it, how secure are they in protecting our information? Because this has all of our financial information on Munis. So Daniel's working with that, trying to get some answers from them. That's why the wording on that one was changed from your original agenda that went out. And that contingency that was put on this one, this is, we want you to, asking for your approval contingent on them answering all the questions and Daniel feeling comfortable that they have met all our cybersecurity issues, so.
May I ask, I beg your pardon, I had to pass something down there about an accident.
Yes, sir.
So what you're asking the board tonight is to vote the funds provided, in other words, you're using the word contingency, provided that Mr. Daniel and you put y'all stamps of approval on it?
Yes, from all the way back to 2009 when we went with Munis. Every 3 years, the boards have to do a renewal. This is a renewal contract that we're renewing. All the past boards have done it since 2009. So, but we do have one change with this renewal. We're looking at them hosting all the services.
So you're saying you're asking the board to vote to approve this, provided they meet certain criteria you and Mr. Daniel have laid out there?
Yes, I mean, we would have to have this renewal approved regardless, if we were continuing to host, but we'd probably have another item on the agenda asking for however much it costs to buy a new server.
Any idea what that would be, Mr. Jim?
That would be a good question for Mr. Daniel.
Mr. Daniel. Mr. Jim, thank you.
Mayor, I have a question.
All right, Alderman Klein.
I would like to look at this more or less as a renewal with an upgrade,
Right.
basically, is what you're doing. And,
In hopes that, yeah, they can answer all of our questions.
right. And then the speed would probably pick up also. I mean, sounds to me like y'all are overtaxed with data, and that would take that out and give you more speed on a local level.
Thank you, Mr. Robinson.
We hope so. The Tyler product that we currently use is end-of-life support, is kind of what pushed it to this line. So when I came in, this was like one of the upgrades that we're looking at. From our first meeting with them, they also explained to us that in 2 years, they're forcing all of their customers to go to the cloud. So buying a server that we're going to use for 2 years, it's going to cost us $10,000, $12,000, didn't seem like a wise move.
Right.
So we wanted to go, if we're going to go through the training and everything of all of the employees on this version to get it upgraded to where we're compliant, we might as well take the next jump instead of doing this again in 2 years and spending the money on the server.
Alderman Bledsoe.
What if they can't meet your qualifications? Then we buy a server?
No, I mean, there are other products, is the best way to put that. The questions that I've had for them is, it's a requirement that we're in a government-supported cloud environment, which is what we did with our Office 365. It's not just a standard business, but everything government-related has to be kept on different servers for different security. They currently are hosting all of the web applications on their own server farm and are saying that they're probably going to go to the Amazon government. They're saying that everything on their current farm is government-related. There's no private industry or private businesses out there. So that was one of the first concerns that I had is, where is this being housed? The next questions relate to how they interface with the Microsoft products and multi-factor authentication that we've been forced also to meet for insurance and other security requirements.
Anyone else have any questions? Alderman Dupree.
So the $88,000, is that the cost no matter what you find out later? Can it come down any if you change something up?
From what I understand from them, that's their rate for software as a service. If we didn't go to that platform, the current price, I don't know if I saw that quote because it had already been budgeted for prior to my arrival and had been scheduled. But when I got here and had the first conversation with them and realized that, okay, they're going to make us, they're forcing us to upgrade to this new product version. And then they're going to force us in 2 years to upgrade again. Why are we doing the first upgrade? Why are we not going to the most recent version now?
So are we using this Tyler because we've used them in the past?
Yes, it's
So
been
there's not like a bid to go out?
No, it's not a bid. No, sir.
All right. Mr. Robertson touched on the security. That was something I had a concern with. I'm not too tech savvy myself, but when you say the cloud, that kind of scares me a little bit because anybody can, all these hackers nowadays, can reach out and say, hey,
Sure, and that's one of the things that I discussed with the mayor yesterday as well, and one of the things that has been my goal since getting here is to get as much risk and liability away from the building here. With a disaster recovery plan or with any type of hack or breach, the more that we house here, the more we are responsible for. So the cloud gives us a couple benefits. One, it decreases our security liability. Also, if there was a disaster where this building went down, there's really no, we do on-site backups and we have a cloud backup that we could restore somewhere, but once that happens, where do you restore to? And that's one of the biggest things that people miss when they're looking at risk management and disaster recovery. So this prevents that. It would also give us a better uptime if COVID was to break out again and people were quarantined back to their houses and we have to do remote working. It makes it easier to access. It's also decreasing the number of connections into our network here from a remote appliance because they're providing that security and firewall to their cloud environment. So it gives us more accessibility. It gives us a cleaner footprint for disaster recovery and basic risk management.
That's it, Mayor.
Is this $88,000 per year?
Correct.
Thank
Yeah, it's a 3-year contract. I will share with you that one of our sistering municipalities, South Haven, has been on Munis, and I know they have been hosted out in the cloud for a good 10 years. The county last year went with Munis, and I'm not for sure if they are hosted in the cloud or if they chose to do a server. DeSoto County Schools is on Munis, and they've been on it for over 10 years also. And, I didn't check on them to see if they were hosted out in the cloud, but I do know South Haven has been hosted out on the cloud. But DeSoto County Schools is also on Munis, and they've been on them, I know, for at least 8 years. There are others out there that have been on the cloud, and South Haven hasn't had any major issues over the years that they've been with them and hosted out on the cloud.
Anyone else? Alderman Bledsoe.
So more likely, these people have a firewall or protection if they're dealing with governments, like everybody. More likely they got it. You just got to get them to tell us what we can get.
Yeah, exactly. And it's, I'm looking at the security, make sure that it's gonna meet government compliance. I mean, that's the big thing, is I don't set those rules or regulations, but I have to make sure that we're getting to that point, which is what we've been working on for the last year. They should have a secure environment. They have a, Security Operations Center compliance, which is big out in the world of cybersecurity. It's basically a requirement for that. There's just a lot of nuances and that I want to make sure that they're hitting. You know, my background prior to here was also with the Navy for 14 years and working in the federal government environment. And I want to make sure that we're meeting those obligations and not just the lower end, that we get to the most secure environment possible.
So you see, a lot of people are getting hacked.
Oh, yeah.
So, and every time they get an upgrade, we get to upgrade at the same time, or we have to pay more and more?
That is one of the good things about the cloud, is that they're responsible for keeping the servers patched, and also to make sure if there's any availability for malicious code to get into their environment, that they are patching for that.
Because you see every day, somebody's been hacked, some of these federal government people.
Exactly.
Supposed to be so top-notch, they're not so top-notch.
Exactly, and it's like I used to tell directors and base managers when I was with the Navy, is when there is a breach, if you don't allow us to implement this and you don't follow the guidelines, when CNN shows up at the gate and wants to interview somebody, I will point them to you. And that's kind of the stance that I take with them as well, that I want to make sure that if there is a breach, that they are the ones that have to put their name out there, that they were the ones that were breached. It wasn't the city of Horn Lake. It wasn't, you know, on our behalf, but it was theirs, and let them take the hit. Pretty much like credit card compliance as well, that the people that provide us with that service, if they were to get hacked or breached, I want them to be at the, you know, sending out the letters to our customers saying that their data was exposed.
So they would tell you, if we've been hacked, they'd call you and say, hey, man, y'all just got hacked.
Well, it wouldn't be us, it would be their environment.
Okay.
It would, because our database, really what they would have is our PII, our private personal identifiable information stored out there, which would be our citizens. And if there was a breach inside of their environment, it would be more than just us that would be subject to that.
Anyone else have any? Alderman Bostic.
I had to wait till last.
Yep.
First off, I wanted to commend you on a superb job that you're doing with our IT department. I think I'm speaking not by myself, but this whole board here and the mayor. We got full confidence, I'm sure, in the decisions that you're going to make concerning this and moving forward. And I had a question for Jim. 90% of this price is already in our budget for this year for renewal. We're just around about 8, 9, 10% or whatever going up just to go to the next step, correct?
Yeah, all of this is taken out of 901 contract service, so professional services. So that amount, you'll remember back in budget time, did go up. We increased that for anticipating this and a few other things. So
Right. I do remember that. And also, how will that affect our directors of the departments as far as training? Anything that they'll have to do different? Will it be like once y'all make the decision that we go forward with this or not? Or y'all, how long a process is this going to take for him to y'all to make the decision on where we're going to go? And are they on a time limit with us?
Well, they've kind of laid out some things with us on the upgrade. That won't happen until next year. They want to have this in process, you know, once we get approval and everything on this and updating our forms. They're looking at April, May for the transition. At around that same time, we'll send out to department heads and have virtual trainings. They're going to go through different trainings where the department heads and everybody that works in Munis will see the new look. They have several different, a train and a test component where we can get on just a train aspect, do everything we normally do, and it's not hitting our system. It's just a training tool. But they're going to do virtual training, so everybody will get to see the new look, get to play with it, and get comfortable with it before they flip the switch. Because some people are still on the real old version that's not Windows based. But yeah, it is a time frame. They're looking at April and May, I believe is what they were saying.
So that'll give you plenty of time to get all the questions answered that you.
I believe so. The big questions, are on their cloud environment and how, I wanted to make sure that we weren't getting our backs pushed against the wall because they're no longer supporting the version we're on past March. That was kind of some of the red flags. I got the feeling that, they were pushing us extra hard to move to the newer version or to the cloud, and it was either one or the other. And now that I've kind of gotten in and seen a little bit more about them and their product and what our environment and requirements are, it's kind of made me come up with some new questions that I wanted to get answered before we say, hey, yeah, we're going to spend this money with you.
Gotcha. Thank you very much.
Mayor.
Alderman Dupree.
If we commit this money to Tyler and they cannot perform or do what you want them to do, like you said earlier, we can go down a different avenue with a different company. Can we get that money back to pay the other company if you find one that can do what you want them to do?
That's an excellent question. There's always a way out, I guess, Billy can say. From a legal term, there's always a caveat to a contract. And I think that's one of the reasons why I'm asking some of the questions that I am. I'm going to make sure that they live up to what we call service level agreements, which is their level of support that they need to provide us in a timely manner. Things that, like I told the mayor, I came from the restaurant business years ago, and if a vendor wasn't performing or providing us with a quality of good that we wanted, then we threw their stuff to the curb and we changed vendors. And I want them to fully understand that that's what the city of Horn Lake is prepared to do if they're not willing to meet their obligations with us.
So why would we put this money out there in the first place, not knowing if they can do what you want them to do? Why can't we just table this until you find out exactly what they can do?
Well, if you notice on here, this quote expires the end of this month, on the 30th. And we're trying to keep the ball rolling towards this transition. Say, just bad scenario, they can't answer some of the questions. We've been operating on this system since 2009, fully on from 2010 on. Munis functions. You can ask all the department heads. The financial side, we are in it every day, all day long, and we're operating. If we decided, worst case scenario, that we want to change companies, it's not a flip off the switch. We'll have months and months of transition, because if we shut Munis down, I can tell you the city shuts down. We will not pay anybody. We won't be able to record any money coming in. Everything would stop without Munis. So we would have to have a transition to a different company that would take months and months, because when we were on BBI and transitioned to Munis, it was months of seeing whether when they pulled all of our financial data, if it would hit their system right. And at that point, we were looking at pretty much every department. when they started running some scenarios back in 2009, Public Works and utilities, some of the data from utilities wasn't coming over right. You know, and all the utility payments and all of our clients. So they put a hold on that component and went ahead with everything else of what we use today. So it would be a transition where we see if all of our data, because we can't lose all our data, because that's what our audits are based on, and we have to have all that data. So it would be a transition, but hopefully the discussion tonight doesn't paint a picture like we're having tons of issues with Munis. We're operating smoothly on a daily basis. I say that we've had some major printer issues with when we're putting in stuff. It hasn't been able to hit our printers, but that's, you know, kinks that thanks to Daniel and putting pressure on them, they finally figured out it was on their side. But we have those, but we operate daily and smoothly on Munis for the most part. So I didn't want you to get a picture like we're having major issues with Munis. We're having some little issues that we've had to address. One part of that is we had new copiers installed, which that's what we print to. So a lot of that had something to do with it. And then when Daniel kicked off the multi-factor authentication, it had to read our printers and everything else. So any device that was hooked up to our system, Daniel had a mountain to climb there with all of our devices, all of our phones. Even the police and fire have devices that connect to our system that all have to be verified. So just wanted to tell you, we are requesting that just because this quote expires at the end of this month, and we also want to keep on their time frame of moving forward for this transition in April or May.
Mayor.
You know, I know nothing about computers, and I may have misunderstood the entire conversation. And both of you gentlemen, thank you for being so patient with me. Are y'all on the same page? It sounds like y'all are a little bit off on the same page. You're wanting to go ahead tonight. You're wanting to check on stuff. So
that's why the contingency is in that motion.
that's what I was asking about earlier, and it just got lost off in the cloud somewhere.
Rain cloud.
Approve contingent of Daniel getting his questions answered, and we get on the same page with their departments.
So you're asking the board to vote this because they're giving you a deadline, December the 31st.
Yes, and what my plan was to do was this board motion that states on there that it's contingent on them doing their job. I'm going to send this, or Daniel's going to send it to the folks that he's been working with and say, hey, the ball's in your court now. If you can't get this to our satisfaction, then there's the contingency. We're back to square one. So we're trying to really force their hand.
Well, that's because Mr. Daniel in his remarks said, comparing it to vendors and other businesses, if you can't provide the services, you just get out of the way, we'll get somebody else. But how are we going to know? They're going to want their money by December the 31st. March, is it March when it comes up? They want you to sign a contract by December the 31st.
Yes, I'd have to look at the full documents on the date.
Mayor, while he's looking.
Yes, sir.
So we go quarterly, pay a quarterly at a time. That way, if something goes wrong, we ain't got our $88,000 tied up. No?
Yeah, it doesn't all go out at the same time.
Okay, well, I'm just making sure, because down here it says $88,000 3 times.
Thank you, sir.
And, other thing, Jim, are we all on Munis now? You remember one time Public Works wasn't and the court wasn't, so we was having a little trouble there.
We are not. Public Works, utilities, and court are still on their own software.
Which is one of the reasons we have questions about the audit. Yeah. But I'm just trying to find out. You know, it seems like they're pushing you to make a decision by the 31st.
Well, I mean, we initiated all of this just because, actually, it started back when John Mark was here, because our end of life of this software was coming up. Actually, it's already passed what they originally told us, but they have hundreds of people still on 11.3. Our version is 11.3 that we're on right now. They were telling everybody it's end of life. You've got to get off of that and move forward. And they realized we can't get all these hundreds of people. They were not doing a realistic timeline, so they pushed everything back to next year as end of life for this particular software. But we had already started it because they originally told us that 11.3 was going to end at the end of this year. And we started it because Miss AJ, you know, always does the W-2s, you know, late December, and she tries to get them out the very 1st of January. Well, at that point, when we were talking to them last year, they were saying, you got to upgrade or you're not going to be able to do your W-2s. So we started this process a year ago, and then it just kind of slowed down because they said, hey, we're sorry, we can't convert all these hundreds of clients, and you're one of them, off of 11.3. So they've supported it until April or May of next year, and that's when we're trying to transition to going to them hosting it offsite and upgrading to the newest version.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. So what you're asking this board to do is to vote it with the contingency that your concerns and Mr. Daniels' concerns are met. Then do you propose to come back in front of the board and tell them that you are satisfied? Because if you're waiting on that, why do they need to vote tonight?
We can come and give you an answer, an update on if they have.
Them?
Yes.
Well, anybody on the board have any questions? Alderman Johnson, I'm sorry.
Gentlemen, what I'm hearing is, basically, we're going to have to go with this company anyway, no matter whether, you know, with the change, if they could handle the security for us. Basically, this is who we're going to be with anyway because of the changeover and how long it would take to switch to another company. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes, and you know, the other kink that was thrown into this is Daniel's done an outstanding job of getting us secure. Our insurance company is requiring a lot of stuff, a lot of items for cybersecurity, and that's putting more pressure on our vendors that we do business with to make sure they're secure. You know, we met with another vendor that could handle part of this. You know, one reason we really didn't continue to pursue them is they don't have a component that would, at this point, they're working on building that into their system, but a system that would handle utilities. You know, if we were to make such a huge drastic move to a different financial software. I would like to go with somebody that could take all the departments in at that point, have all of our departments, have utilities and court, all on one software. But this company that we looked at did not have those other two components. Munis does. South Haven utilizes Munis for all their financial and their departments, their planning department. Utilities is on Munis, and their court system is on Munis. So, Munis has those components. We just haven't transitioned everybody back to that since the discussions back in 2010.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Alderman Bostic.
Just real quick, Jim, you said South Haven's been on this for 10 years. Do they use the Tyler hosting services, or do they use a different one, or do you know?
Yeah, they use their hosting service that's out in the cloud.
The Tyler, the same one that we use?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
And I apologize, I didn't check with, I've talked to the county because they just went with them last year, but I never did ask them if they host it or if it's out in the cloud. And, the county's over a $200 million budget, so I'm sure they did their homework on making sure all of their financial information was secure. The school system is just as large a budget, and they've been on Munis for probably a decade too.
I'm thinking they are out there, but I can't honestly answer that completely.
All right, anybody else? Alderman Bostic.
Hey, just one more quick question, if I can remember it.
That happens to me all the time,
It's okay.
don't worry about it.
So-
Come around.
Our 3-year that we're currently in, it expires March 30th, is that what you're saying? And did we always make a commitment for the 3 years, 2 or 3 months in advance of, before the expiration?
Sure.
I can't remember the past years, 3 years ago, when we renewed. I don't know, Billy may be able to pull up our old contracts, but one reason why we're looking at this time frame is to get us on track for the upgrade that will take place in April and May. And so they can, once they get a signed contract, their staff can start building our system, because it's not something you can just, very next week go out and be hosted on their website. They have to start building all of that and getting that system ready, and getting all of our information transferred over to the new version.
So the only thing that expires is the quote that they're giving us on December 30th. That's not when our contract with them expires, correctly?
No, I don't have that full contract. I just have the forms that we put in your board packet on when it actually expires. I apologize about that.
The reason I asked that, you said that we need to make a motion tonight because you made reference to December 30th on the quote that they've given us.
Yeah, I'd have to get them to re-quote if we do not approve tonight with but that's why I added that contingency on there, because if they don't meet our needs or give us the proper answers, we're gonna, we'll have to back out of this anyway.
I think what the mayor was asking was, can you get the answers, or between the two of you, could you get those answers to those questions before our next board meeting? And then we could table this till then and make approval then. That way, if you don't get them, then we can just renew the contract and move forward from there.
We could send them the information that we put a contingency and tell them that the board would like the definite answers before they even vote on that, and that would put it back in their court. So yes, I mean, we could do that.
We could, so you could do that without us making a motion?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
You're correct, Alderman, that's what I was thinking. Does anyone else have, Alderman Bledsoe?
One thing, I just don't want it to be like the audit we just got through with.
Okay, so you will have more of a handle on things. I'm sure that Alderman Bostic and everybody knows you might not have 100% within 2-week period, but be able to make some progress. Did you have anything else you wanted to add to this conversation, Mr. Daniel?
Always. You know, it is, the biggest questions that we have are mainly related to, you know, the end-of-life support that they have now. While the way that we're moving forward to the cloud, I mean, I'm perfectly comfortable with that. But as far as seeing the product and getting feedback on how the product's actually working, I haven't had that opportunity. So I'm asking them to do not only a demo for me of the new product, but also our finance director, Marie Shoemake. And the main things I want to see are the speed of transaction, to make sure that it's not glitchy, because we suffer with that with the current outdated version, which I understand. But, you know, it's things along that line. I also want them to give me a better understanding of their support structure and network and how we can escalate issues better without needing to micromanage.
Anybody else have any questions? Is there like a motion to table this if anybody wants? We don't have to have a motion, do we?
No, sir, it's not necessary.
Okay. Did y'all want to have a motion and vote on this tonight, or would y'all rather table it to the 20th?
Table it. We can table it as long as we have a decision before the 30th, because if we have to get another quote, we know it's going to be higher.
Oh.
For sure.
Did you want to make a motion to? Yep.
No, as long as we get it by the next meeting. it should be
Okay.
fine, yeah.
All right, thank you, gentlemen, for explaining everything so thoroughly to us. We certainly do appreciate it. Mr. Ware, a Merry Christmas to you and yours, sir. Thank you, sir. All right, going down to number 7. Do we have any citizens' remarks? No. All right, Mayor, Alderman correspondence. I want to thank everybody involved with the Christmas parade, every department, every person, every organization, with the tree lighting. Certainly appreciate all of that, everyone being out there and participating so well in that. I know it's the first year back, and then, of course, the chamber is in charge of the parade, but look forward to it next year. Alderman Young, did you have anything to say?
No, sir, I do not. Thank you.
Just hope you get better, sir.
Thank you so much.
Yes, sir. Alderman Dupree.
Yes, sir. I wanted to thank the Horn Lake Neighborhood Watch and Optimus Club for putting on the tree lighting this year. They did a phenomenal job, and hope to see it again next year.
Alderman Johnson.
Yes, sir. I have a couple things to say tonight. I want to reiterate what a wonderful day that we had on Saturday. The weather was nice, and hey, if nobody else enjoyed themselves, I enjoyed being on top of that fire engine. It was really nice the entire day, from the parade down to the cookies with Santa. It was really nice. Also, please remember the Geis family in prayer. As you guys saw, Alderman Geis did have to leave, so pray for that family. Also, if anyone is interested in helping to sponsor some children, I have 4 families with 14 children between them that I'm trying to get sponsored for Christmas. So if you would like to sponsor a child, please see me or get in touch with me to let me know. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman. Thank you for everything. Alderman Bostic. Alderman Bledsoe.
Thank everybody for working so hard to make our city look good. Sorry I couldn't be there Saturday. I wasn't feeling too good. When you get old, sometimes you get aches and pains, and I had some. So anyway, I appreciate it. And Vince, sorry about your mother passing away, and everybody keep him in your prayers and the family. And thank everybody. You know, this is a season to be jolly, but some people, you know, can't be because they have tragedy. And hope Alderman Geis's family's going to be all right. So thank everybody, and that's all I got.
Thank you, sir. Alderman Klein.
Yes, sir. This smile that's been on my face ever since that parade, I hadn't been able to wipe it off. Had such a good time with the family and all the people out there and the support of the fire department and their confidence in me. So I'm looking forward to the parade next year. Be bigger and better.
Yes, sir. Chief Ryle, did you have anything for the board?
Thank you, Mayor. I don't have anything tonight.
Anyone have any questions for Chief or comments for Chief Ryle? Mr. Box outfit had to pick up a dead deer right in front of S&H Small Engine this morning, Chief. It's unfortunate that it happens. Thank the police department, public works, fire department, parks, animals, everybody that participated in the parade did such a great job. Mr. Stephen, you got anything?
Thank you, Mayor. No, I don't have anything tonight.
Anyone have any questions for Chief Ryle or Mr. Box? Chief White, you have anything, sir?
No, sir, not tonight. Thank you.
Anyone have any questions for the chief? Mr. Drew, you have anything for the board?
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Board. I don't have anything tonight.
Anyone have questions for Mr. Drew? Mr. Vince, you have anything for the board?
Yeah, I do, Mayor. I have a couple of things here, but, is this on? How about this one? First I would just like to say we appreciate the prayers and thoughts during our time of loss, and it was truly heartfelt and coveted. So thank you very much to all of you for that. We certainly appreciate it. So I just want to I had a couple of things here I wanted to kind of look at. One is just kind of an update on our ongoing projects, and that is, first of all, the water treatment plant on Nail Road. That's project was, as you know, was bid or given notice to proceed on the 15th of November, and the completion date is set at January the 24th, 2024. Obviously, that's quite a bit of time for a project, but the reason is, and I think we've talked about this earlier, but just to let you know, what they're going to do is they're out there now. They'll be doing some site work, which is basically taking up the asphalt, and they'll be making some changes to some of the utilities. I think they've readjusted some of the electrical lines and stuff like that. But beyond that, they will probably excavate and put in the foundation for this filter, which is a huge tank in a building. And once they get that foundation poured, then you'll probably see them kind of pull back, waiting on equipment. That's why this has such a long time. Is the lead time on that equipment or those tanks is like 36 to 40 weeks. So hopefully, you know, that will get a little bit better as we go as far as supply and that kind of thing. But that's kind of the holdup. There'll be the holdup once we get the foundations put in. Street management program. We're approximately 60% complete with project development on year one, and we anticipate advertising for those projects, the first set of projects, sometime in the spring. I'll begin construction sometime in the spring. We'll probably advertise around February. The project will be about $3 million in construction, of which about, I think, 80% of that is going to be what we call reconstruction or milling and overlay, and about 20% will be preservation type rehab. And so if we look forward to the future years, that's kind of what the schedule will be. We'll try to get it designed, the project's designed from September to like January, and then we will advertise and start spring, you know, of that year. So for the next 4 years, that's kind of where the schedule will look. EWP program or projects, there's 5 different sites that we're working on now. They're complete with 2 of those sites. One is at White Sands, right there off of Two-Lane Road. The other is Park Road within the park there, along the roadway in the park. And then they started the one on the Nail Road ditch at Scott Farms, coming out of Scott Farms. They've started on that one, and then they'll have 2 more to do, which is Park Road and Nail intersection, that ditch to the west, and then there's one out in Iroquois Street. So they're pretty much on target for their completion date of January the 18th, pending somewhat decent weather. You know, this is obviously next week or so is going to be kind of rough as far as weather. This past week has been kind of rough with rain, but hopefully they'll get that complete somewhere around middle to end of January. And then the other thing I wanted to mention was ARPA second round applications. They opened second round December the 1st, and it closes the end of January. So what we've done is we've requested the score sheet that they use to score the first round of applications. We're going to take those, review those, and try to put ourselves in a better position as far as potentially getting additional points on each one of those questions that we were answered, the 70 questions we were answered, to turn in before January the 31st. So we should probably get those started in the next week or so, depending on how quick we can get the score sheets back from DEQ.
Thank you, sir. Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Vance? Thank you, Mr. Vance. Mr. Barr, do you have anything for the board?
I did not, but thank you.
Yes, sir. Anyone have any questions, comments for Mr. Barr? Mr. Jim, do you have anything for the board, sir?
Yes, sir. I just placed up at your locations just a sample of the banners that have been ordered and hopefully be in this month. And once we get the banners and the hardware, Public Works can start putting those up. This particular banner will be up through March, and then we'll look at designs for a spring banner. But this will be up through the winter months, the cooler months, since it has snowflakes on it. So did want you to know that these were ordered for all the intersections down Goodman Road.
And I'd like the board to know that y'all have been working on that ever since the board requested they be ordered. But the promotion company, for some reason, didn't get us the design until just like, what, a week ago?
Yes, I've had to.
I don't want to blame them, but I mean, we have been after them and after them and after them, and they finally submitted it.
You know, we chose to go with a local company and that does a broad variety of things. So this isn't what they specialize in. Like the first bids we got, I mean, they specialize in banners, but we are going with the local company. They also do the South Haven banners. They do a lot of banners for DeSoto County schools around the school buildings if you have any banners around your school. Hopefully those will be in here this month. I need to get an update on where they were, but that is the type of design that we're going with, a red and a green fabric banner with that design on it. I did want to share with you also, and Alderman Geis had texted me earlier during the day, just kind of asking about the bonds that we've been talking about for renovation of City Hall and also the animal shelter, the new animal shelter. We're still waiting to hear from the school board and have that finalized. Mr. Vince and his team went out and did all the, surveying of the actual land requested for the new animal shelter. So we really have to get the full approval from them. But I did put in a call to Nick Shore, which is with Governmental Services, and he's working on a couple different scenario proposals. Because if you look at both of the possibilities, I had a meeting with another architect that looked at City Hall and at the animal shelter design of around 13,000 square feet. And they submitted, well, you saw one in your board packet you approved for them. They're looking at the renovation of City Hall, about 2.5 million at the max. There are some things they added in there that we'll probably look at pulling out to bring that number down a little bit. They also gave a proposal for an animal shelter for just the construction costs at 4.4 million. If you remember Mr. Mike's diagram, you know, he had construction costs, and then you had a lot of the soft costs, which brought that up to over 5 million. So Nick is looking at a bond of 8.5 million, not to exceed 8.5 million, 6 for a potential animal shelter, 2.5 for City Hall. But I anticipate those, you know, with looking at those more closely, we can bring that down probably at least 2 million. Animal shelter, we've got two different proposals, one from Mr. Mike, a Shelter Planners of America. You know, they had two different scenarios there, which one was in the 4 million range and, you know, the highest in the 5 million range. So I think we can get that down closer to 4 million. City Hall, probably below 2 million. But he's working on bond scenarios of 8.5, not to exceed 8.5 million, and he's looking at, you know, 30-year terms, 20-year terms, so I can bring back to you and show you here's going to be our payments, our bond payments, you know, and he's looking at also. He's got our full financials and showing that we had a bond roll off this year. We've got another bond rolling off next year, and he will plug in all of these scenarios into that and see if we can handle a bond payment not to exceed 8.5 million. But I can tell you it's not going to be that high with looking at two different architect designs already saying potential of an animal shelter in the 4.5 million. So I did want to let you know that.
Alderman Klein.
I don't know if it kind of behoove us to also maybe look at putting public works in there for us, because once the dog kennel and all that's moved, they're going to need to do some renovation, and from what I can tell, they need some remodeling done down there. So I was just wondering if it's the time to go ahead and make sure we include them in this bond that we're covering that area too.
Mr. Jim.
Well, I mean, we haven't even talked about, you know, ideas of what would need to be done with that building and what Stephen would, we'd have to start looking at that to see what potential he could turn that into and then get some engineers involved in that too. But he can start looking at that because you've got the cat house and the shelter where the dogs are. Both of those could be utilized again.
Good idea. Thank you, sir. Anyone else have any questions for Mr. Jim? Thank you, sir. Mr. Campbell, do you have anything for the board, sir?
Mr. Mayor, I do have one item. I received an email this morning from the company that is going to attempt to build a cell tower on the Fire Station number 3 property, and they are in need of a utility easement in order to run fiber to that proposed tower. And they have sent me an easement agreement that I've looked at. I'm probably going to make some modifications to, and they did send me a survey, and they indicated that Chief Linville had looked at this. Are you aware of that, Deputy Chief White? I'll confirm that Chief Linville's okay with the location before we sign off on it, but the email I got had one of those red exclamation points on it, so I do think this may be time sensitive, so I would ask the board to go ahead and approve a utility easement for that company that's called Air Spaces LLC for that proposed cell tower.
Do we have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Alderman Klein. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Alderman Bledsoe. Do we have any discussion? Roll call, please.
Alderman Klein.
Aye.
Alderman Bledsoe. Alderman Guys. He's not here. Alderman Bostic.
Aye.
Alderman Johnson.
Aye.
Alderman Dupree.
Aye.
Alderman Young.
Aye.
Motion carries 6 in favor, 1 absent. All right. Since we have nothing down for executive session, do we have a motion? Oh, just that thing from the Mississippi River Commission, let you know where it stands, that little miscellaneous, that they have the final phase of the North Dakota County feasibility study. And if that moves along, then they're going to ask for design funds, trying to keep you up to date on what was going on that. That addresses our flooding problem. Do we have a motion to adjourn? Motion to adjourn by Alderman Dupree. Do we have a second?
I second.
Second by Alderman Johnson. Is there any discussion? Roll call, please, Miss Julie.
Alderman Young.
Aye.
Alderman Dupree.
Aye.
Alderman Johnson.
Aye.
Alderman Bostic.
Aye.
Alderman Bledsoe.
Aye.
Alderman Klein.
Aye.
Motion carries 6 in favor, 1 absent. Ladies and gentlemen, this board is adjourned.
Francis, I'm glad you made it. You
Hello,
had me
Mr.
worried.
Francis.
I was gonna have to put a 0 by your name.